Hello and welcome to Blood on the Tamesis, a Vampire the Vampire the Masquerade one-shot set in Oxfordshire, England, 1772. With me tonight, we have Pedro.
Hello.
And who are you playing, Pedro?
Oh, yes. I am playing a Tremere named Andres. Recent arrival to Oxfordshire from the...
Okay, and Nat, how about you?
Nat, I'm playing Sir Francis of Clan Nosferatu.
Thank you. And Blair?
I'm Blair, and I'm playing Abigail Greenbrier, Regent of Oxfordshire, Clan Tremere.
And Mitch?
I am returning as Sir Thomas Delamore of Clan Toreador.
So before we get started on the session, I just want to say quickly that we've managed to get our clip of the week out of the way already, which I'm very pleased about. And the other thing is that this is a Memoriam one-shot set in 1772. If you've not seen any of the other Blood on the Tamesis stuff, that is absolutely fine. You can enjoy this as it is, as a standalone piece. And if you have seen the rest of the Chronicle, then hopefully there'll be things here, Easter eggs and such, that will be there to pique your interest. I also want to say a shout out to Kirsty, who did the art for this week's episode. I think she's done a fabulous, fabulous job, as always.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Kirsty.
Gorgeous.
Again, before we get into this, although there are similar Chronicle tenets across all of these episodes, they are slightly different for this one from the previous one-shot, and indeed from the main Chronicle. So some of them are the same. The bring no shame upon your blood still applies. That means not that you can't do anything bad, but you can't be found out to do anything bad. So should your wrongdoings become public, that can put stains upon your soul. The other one is serve not the beast. Again, this doesn't mean you can't do horrible bestial acts, but they have to be of your own choice. So if you choose to be a horrible murderous scumbag, that's fine. But if the beast makes you into a horrible murderous scumbag, that's not fine. And lastly, and this is unique to this session, is let no false words pass between brothers. All of these Chronicle tenets, I should say, are part of the oath that Kindred swear to the Prince and to Oxfordshire when they join it. This Chronicle tenet means when we're talking about pass between brothers, we're talking about fellow citizens of Oxfordshire. So should you lie effectively to your fellows of Oxfordshire, that is a thing that could bring stains upon your soul unless you can weigh your convictions against it. So without any further ado, I think we'll get straight into our first scene. So as I say, we're in 1772 on February the 14th. We are going to be starting, by the way, with Sir Francis. So beneath Oxfordshire University, there are a number of cellars and underground rooms, and in some places tunnels and passageways that link those spaces. And many of those spaces are no longer used by the public or even really known about by many people. And in one of these rooms, deep beneath the city, is the place where Sir Francis makes her home. So, Sir Francis, before we get into exactly where you are and what you're doing, could you just give us a quick description of what you look like?
So Sir Francis is tall, muscled, broad chest, wearing a full suit of armour. Armour is not very well maintained, it's quite dented and corroded in places. She either carries or is wearing a helm with a black feather plume. Her bane manifests in that her skin is quite translucent, stretched torn over her skull structure, and there are black veins visible. In addition, her gums are especially translucent, and her teeth appear to be floating, as well as being obviously long and sharp.
Thank you. So it takes a while for the blood to start to move and stir you from your slumber. Of course, as it does so, the effort of doing this will force it to be roused. So if you can make a quick rouse check for me to see if this act of waking this night makes you hungrier than you were before. So as you lay there and as the blood makes its way through your veins, bringing you kind of back to wakefulness, it takes a while for you to piece together exactly why your mood is so bleak. But it definitely is bleak. You're not happy. And then, yes, then gradually you remember that you are due to report to Prince Drogo on your progress for, whilst it is not widely known in the city at this time, Sir William, the child of the prince and one of the founding knights of Oxfordshire, has gone missing. And the prince is beside himself with concern about this. And as the Scourge of Oxfordshire, you were charged to search the city and find out where he is and what has happened to him. And though you did everything you could, so far you've had no luck whatsoever. And you know that you are supposed to go to him at the beginning of this night and report on your progress. And you know that your lack of progress is going to go down very badly indeed. The first thing that your eyes alight on is a candle which has been lit for you, as it is at the start of each night, by Lucia. And you're aware that she'll be waiting outside should you need her for anything. Of course, being underground, there is no other light source but this candle, which flickers. There is a slight breeze coming from somewhere, even this far down. What are you doing?
I will be making sure I know exactly what time I need to be there, and I will make great pains to be there early, despite dreading it. So I will be making sure that my armor is on correctly, making sure my the plume on my helmet is somewhat groomed. And yeah, I suppose once I feel like I'm attired correctly, I will leave the room.
So as you're preparing yourself, Lucia will come in to help you prepare. There is no mirror in this space of yours, and she will, I should say, she looks to be a Spanish woman in her mid-30s. She is wearing funeral black, as she has done for quite a while now. She has black hair. In fact, there is very little of colour that she wears at all in terms of jewellery. You know, she's spartanly dressed. Nevertheless, she will make sure that your cloak hangs straight from your shoulders. She will make sure that your plume is perfectly brushed and prepared. Are you saying anything to her, or are you just allowing her to do this and then rushing off to see the prince?
I probably don't feel too much like speaking, but I think I would muster up to be able to say, good morning, my love, although, good evening, my love, although I fear it perhaps may not be such a good evening tonight.
She frowns at that and says, well, then you must endure it head on and come through the other side stronger than before, so that you can come back to me.
You are right. It's what I always do. I will do so.
Yes.
Thank you.
She will put a hand on your arm, and she says, you must come back to me.
Give her kind of a weak smile.
Okay.
Say, yes, I will try, as I ever do.
It is evident that she is quite fearful, because it's rare that you express this kind of concern, and you leave. You can get most of the way to the Ashmolean Museum underground. Nevertheless, there are some areas that will require you to go above ground. Can I take it that you are going to use the powers of the blood to hide your armored clanking form, or are you just going to risk it and try and make your way there, relying on your natural skills?
I will use Silence of Death.
Certainly.
Which is free, I believe.
It is.
And if I can also activate Unseen Passage as well.
You can. So that requires a rouse check.
Yes, it does.
To see if you go hungry. But as you make your way up the stairs towards the outside, was that you got hungry, or that you're not hungry?
Yeah, that is a 4, yes.
Does your
you get your blood potency, by the way, because you are no young kindred, you are an ancilla. You will get a re-roll. You can try a second go. Such are the benefits of your powerful blood.
still hungry.
But even that is not enough on this occasion. Perhaps it is this extra weight bearing on you. Nevertheless, you feel the hunger start to rise inside as you go. When you emerge silently, unseen to the eyes of mortals, onto the street, the thing that will strike you is the street lights hanging are fuzzy pieces of light in what is a torrential downpour of rain. And this means that actually there's very few people on the streets, and those that are desperately trying to get off the streets as fast as they can. And you make your way pretty much alone, like a shadow, through the streets until you reach the Ashmolean Museum, a grand building indeed, with its impressive main entrance, the pillars, the kind of Greek-style roof. And as you reach the main doors, they are being opened for you as if someone has been waiting for you to make your arrival. And you will see one of the ghouls that is not the prince's ghoul, but serves the prince nevertheless at the moment. He looks to be a man in his 40s, and he is wearing breeches with long white socks, and he has quite a expensive looking long jacket. He has white hair, which is currently tied in a very tight ponytail with a little black ribbon at his head. And you will know him as Jason Alcott. And he will bow deeply to you, as befits your station, and immediately pulls the door wider to admit you in from the rain. I'm assuming, by the way, you reveal yourself. If not, he will simply stand there looking out through the door until you do so.
I do reveal myself.
Okay. Then he will say, good evening to you, Sir Francis, Scourge of Oxfordshire. Please come inside out of the rain.
Okay, thank you.
He will close the door behind you and begin to lead you across the museum. It is impeccable in here, and you're kind of painfully aware of the dripping sounds as the water gradually comes off your armor and through your kind of sodden cloak. Jason will be hurrying. He won't rush you, of course, but you can tell he seems keen to get you to wherever you're supposed to be as quickly as possible. And he says, I trust you bring news to the prince?
Bring news? I do not think he will approve of the news I bring.
He looks worried when you say that, but doesn't say anything. You soon find yourself brought into a receiving room, and a number of people are here. It is not just the prince who is waiting for you, although he, of course, is there. So Drogo, or Sir Prince Drogo, I should say these days, of Oxfordshire, is still wearing clothes that seem more fitting for a bygone age. He is wearing a fairly simple tunic and tabard and a hood, which he tends to wear very far forward on his face. Nevertheless, you are aware of his skull-like features peering at you from beneath it. His eyes, even without the hood, would be barely visible at this stage. His teeth are permanently extended and seem large even for a kindred's. He is hideous to behold, and you know what it's like to be hideous to behold, but he puts you in the shade, even so. What doesn't help is that these features are twisted with what you imagine is concern, although it's quite hard to read his face. But he will whirl around immediately as you enter. You think he has been pacing. With him, and this doesn't surprise you because they are often together, is of course Sir Thomas de la More, who can also describe himself.
So Thomas is a kind of 20-something white male. He has long brown hair that sort of comes down to his shoulders. he, at this point, is wearing clothes that seem in style compared to the prince, I imagine, but are nevertheless about a century out of date. And very finely dressed. He has a very strong jawline and quite kind of delicate features that give him quite a gentle look.
So Thomas and Drogo are not the only people here. You can also see Sir James Douglas as well, who is where Thomas appears gentle of feature, Sir James does not. He is a solid and powerful looking man with a full beard, neatly trimmed, with a thick moustache, which is shot through with grey. He has a sliver of metal that seems to be kind of threaded through, not artfully, but like it's flown through the air one day and lodged itself there and never been pulled out. Sliver of metal in his right cheek. He is actually wearing clothes at the time. He's wearing breeches. He's also wearing a white wig. You have not seen him dressed in this way before, and you don't believe he's very happy about being dressed this way. Nevertheless, he is. Standing next to him is his child, Samata. She has long, kind of wavy red hair, freckles. James, I should say, looks like a man somewhere in his, you guess, kind of late 40s, early 50s. Marta looks significantly younger. She looks like she's about 20. She has a dusting of freckles. They both look, they're both Caucasian, by the way. She has very blunt features and a heavy looking brow. Like, it gives her the sense of someone who's perpetually frowning. She has green eyes, and she is wearing a period dress with quite kind of lacy sleeves that kind of start, the laces start from her elbows, and the hips of the dress are very, very wide. And the dress is also green to match her eyes. She looks like someone has put her in this dress but not told her how to move in it. Would be your kind of thing of that. They are in conversation as you're arriving. You won't hear exactly what they're saying, but Thomas, you will catch, of course, because very little escapes your ear. You will catch bits of their conversation. They seem to be having some kind of argument, but it's a hushed one. You will catch, as Sir Francis coming in, you will catch James being like, saying, "When I am soft on you, you are angry and you vex me. And yet when I am stern and truthful with you, you are angry and you vex me. What is it to be, woman?" And she says, "You should have thought about that, father, before you embrace me." He says, "That was a long time ago, daughter." And around this point, Sir Francis comes in, and Drogo whirls around and holds up a hand, kind of vaguely in the direction of the brewer to shut up, which they do. Jason will say, "Sir Francis, Knight of Oxfordshire," and as he's about to say something, Drogo just glances at him and he just bows and runs from the room. Not runs literally, but bows and very speedily reverses out through the door. Drogo beckons you forward, Sir Francis.
Yeah, I will step forward and I will bow as low as my armor will allow me to do.
Yeah, there is a sort of creaking sound as you do so. Thomas, you will be aware of the kind of slightly rain-sodden version of Sir Francis that has arrived, and you will hear every drip with painful clarity as it slaps on the stone floor. Drogo says, "Well, where is he?"
Prince, I have found nothing. I have spent many nights searching. I've searched everywhere. I have paced the streets. I have sent underlings to look. There is no sign of him. I regret. I've failed you, my prince.
So, just making a quick roll for Drogo. Drogo shakes his head. You're slightly averted probably from his gaze, but Thomas, you will see him. He walks towards Sir Francis and puts a hand. You'll feel his hand on your shoulder, Sir Francis, and he says, "Oxfordshire demands better of you, Sir Francis."
I know. I know, my prince. I will keep trying. I will not stop until I find him.
He shakes his head. He says, something must be done. Something must be done. And he whirls around towards Thomas. And he says, what are we to do, Thomas? He says, I received word only yesterday that Sir Anulf von Bassenheim is coming. It is my intention to make an impressive display to him. What kind of display can I make if one of the pillars of Oxfordshire is not even here? If we do not even know where he is? If we cannot account for our own brothers, how can we recruit more? This is intolerable. He crosses the room, by the way, with surprising speed, Thomas, and you find he is only a few feet away as you start to speak.
My good prince, do not give up hope so readily. I know you are reluctant, but there is one option that we've yet to try. For we have allowed a Tremere into the city, have we not? And they have their ways. Perhaps they could help us find your child.
His lip curls, and he will grab you by the shoulders. And he says, the Tremere and their ways, we would be beholden to them. He says, bad enough that they creep into our city. He says, but I do not intend to owe them favours.
Our concern for our brothers must be stronger than our hate for others.
Okay. I won't make you roll because I know your stats. So he will. He does pause at that. He says, yes. Yes. Thomas, we have built something incredible here. He says, but if one of its 4 pillars were to crumble, then everything would follow it. Know this. I cannot bring myself to speak with them. You do it. Take Sir Francis. See if she can redeem herself.
Thank you, my prince.
He doesn't acknowledge your comment, but you think he heard you.
I will nod respectfully to him and make my way to leave.
He seems to realise after a moment that he has his hands on your shoulders and he will remove them and step back. But it seems to cost him some effort to do so. He will say quietly as you're going past him, thank you, Thomas. Bring me good news. Swiftly.
I assure you we will.
So the two of you, I assume, are going to leave the chamber. As you reach the doors, they just open seemingly of their own accord. And you will find Jason on the other side of them. He will kind of start to close them behind you and will kind of... He won't engage you in conversation, but he will be there to escort and make sure everything is open for you before you arrive at it. And we'll be there if you wish to say anything to him. Are you saying anything to each other as you leave, or are you just making your way in silence?
Woman of a few words, so unless spoken to, she will be silent.
Okay. So Francis is saying nothing. It is evident that she is, because Thomas is he's good with people. And it is obvious that she is perhaps still reeling a little bit from the prince's displeasure.
I know the prince was harsh on you, but he has many concern for his child. Do not take it personally.
More than I deserve. We must find him.
We know you have been working hard.
Not hard enough, though, is it? If he's not here with us, then nothing is enough.
Yes. Well, let's find him then.
And with that, you step out into the pouring rain once more. So let us go for our next scene to the Chantry of Oxfordshire. I should say the new Chantry of Oxfordshire. For a long, long time, the Tremere have not been accepted at all within the city. The founding knights that created it have long memories. And remember that the Tremere have dubious origins at best and do not really trust them there. Nevertheless, through various means, it has finally been the case that a young, ambitious Tremere has been given this, some might say, terrible posting, which is almost certain to lead to her untimely doom. Others might say that it is a mark of her ambition and genius that got her this post as young as she's got it. Who could say? Not me. I'm only the storyteller. Not only is this a chantry which has a young regent, a surprisingly young regent, it also has a guest from Spain in residence. So Andres, you are in the chantry, which is at the university library. And it is a nice location. It's not the Bodleian Library. I mean, that would be more impressive, but the prince wasn't willing to give that over at this time. But it's nevertheless a fine library and an impressive one. And you have been given a place to stay there by the regent. You're not actually a citizen of Oxfordshire, of course. You are here because of certain boons that have been passed between your chantry and the city back through the last Sabbat War and the help that Oxfordshire provided to your chantry. So you are now here. You've been here for about a month. You don't know the city very well, but you know it reasonably. And Andres is just going through his kind of early evening routine. He is kind of cleaning his equipment and preparing himself for the trials of the night. He's very much a man, as I understand it, of kind of ritual and habit. And it's whilst you are doing this and kind of gathering yourself and getting everything just perfect when there is a knock at the door. What do you do?
Dios, son. He sort of stops, just sort of kind of gives a tired sigh, sort of equips himself quickly, and just sort of marches to the door and opens it by a creak just to see who's out.
Okay, so before I describe who he spies on the other side of the door, could you just describe to us what he looks like?
He is... let me get the description here. He's sort of tall, broad shoulders, barrel-chested, with sort of short, curly, sort of smoky hair, and a sort of a thick, scruffy black beard, like sort of a kind of Oscar Isaac from Dune kind of beard, like thick. Tan skin with sort of battle scars sort of here and there across his face. He has these sort of like intense golden brown eyes. He's built like a soldier. Very, very much sort of the kind of man you would make way for, or else he would just barge through to you.
Okay. I like the fact as well that we can now do Oscar Isaac in Dune as a thing, as a reference. That makes me happy. So on the other side of the door, you will see the third Tremere, because there are only 3 of you in the city. So you have the regent, who of course we will be coming to shortly in all her glory. We have you, and we have the young apprentice, barely embraced fledgling Tremere, whose name is Cheng Li. She looks like a Chinese woman in her mid-40s, though despite her age, there is she doesn't look youthful, but there is a youthful energy to her. She behaves like someone who's younger than she is. She is dressed very simply and humbly, and actually looks kind of too good for her clothes. She looks weirdly like someone has forced her to put this stuff on, but she herself has a certain kind of elegance that can only come, in your opinion, with good breeding and education. She's quite petite, and is kind of unadorned. As I say, she's humbly dressed, no jewelry, no special accoutrements for her hair, no nothing. She's carrying a bundle of scrolls, and she has obviously been waiting, I would say patiently, for you to get to the door, but she's obviously worked up about something. And she'll be kind of peering. As you open the door a crack, you can see she's leaning towards that crack in the door, kind of peering eagerly in your direction.
I just sort of kind of give like a stare down, a glare, and just sort of go, "¿Qué quieres? What do you want, fledgling?"
I'm sorry to bother you. I'm sorry to bother you, Andres. I was wondering if I could ask you a favor.
I open the door a little bit, kind of straighten up and go, "What is it?"
Can I come in?
I open the door and sort of let her in.
Okay, when you open the door, she will rush in. She says, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much for your help. You see, the thing is," and she'll start to lay out the scrolls. She says, "I'm supposed to show my progress with the runes to the regent, but every time I try and draw the intersection, they don't come out right, and hers are so perfect, and she'll be so angry with me. Look," and she'll start spreading out kind of her work and what she's doing. And she says, "I was wondering if you could help me. Maybe even draw this part for me. Look, here's hers," and she'll show you some. It looks like the kind of ritual teaching that you went through when you were a very, very young Tremere yourself. You don't quite recognize the exact form here, but the basic style is something you've come across before. And she says, "And here's mine," and she'll show you hers. And yeah, you can see one thing there is a kind of perfect geometric uniformity to the way, not just that the rune has been drawn, but also to its position on the page itself. It just feels like it's right in every kind of sense, whereas hers looks a bit off and janky. And she looks at you with big pleading eyes. She's expecting me, and if I don't have it right, she's going to be so cross. This is the second week I've been trying to get this. Please.
Which is your dominant hand that you write with?
She'll raise her right hand.
In looking the runes, can I tell if it's of any cultural origin to it?
You think it's in broad terms it's from a Western practice, a European practice, but more than that, no.
The issue, well, when I was learning of rune work, or very much these symbols here, learned it from things that were not my own. Being that from another country, another culture of myself, this is awkward. Have you ever tried translating this into something that is more familiar?
She shakes her head and says, "I'd never considered that." But the thing is, there is so little time, and she's expecting me now. Could you? She looks at you hopefully. Could you just look? I've done the rest of it. It's just the one part where they intersect. Could you just do this for me?
I'll do it.
Okay. She does not enter social combat with you as she was about to. She looks delighted and happy and profusely thanks you as you do it. It is trivial for you to do this. Are you trying to disguise what you've done in any sense, or are you just going to draw the rune?
She simply asked for me to just sort of like draw the rune.
She did.
For her.
She did.
So yeah, like she's not asking me to like hide it or anything. I just sort of do the simple correction, and that's it.
Okay. She is delighted and kind of hops on the spot as you're doing it. And the moment you finish, she picks it up, blows on the ink to dry it, says thank you again, gathers her stuff, and runs from the room. So, anything else I should know that Andres is planning to do immediately at this time?
Andres, he just sort of finishes up what he's about to do, and he's gonna follow. What was the character's name
Chenli
again? Chenli, and he's gonna just follow Chenli, just kind of out of curiosity, just to kind of see like, let's see how the regent asks, like sort of see how it's done.
So you make your way through the chantry. It is easy to follow her. You know where she's going. You know the chantry pretty well now. It will strike you, again, whilst this is a very nice location and has some good stock in its libraries, that there aren't enough wards for your liking. This is not the most defensible location. It does strike you. You've been in, your chantry back home could withstand all manner of supernatural forms of attack. And this one, not so much. I mean, it's got some pretty sturdy doors, but against anything serious, you do feel, more like you're in a glorified library than you are in a chantry sometimes. Nevertheless, you make your way towards the regent's office. So let us go now to the regent herself. So Abigail, I imagine that you are in your study, surrounded by the hard-won fruits of your years of labor. Rare scrolls, books which normally would be not in the possession of a neonate at all, but you've managed to get your hands on them. You're sitting, waiting for Chenli. She's late, you realize. A candle burns at your desk. The rain batters relentlessly on the window outside. And long before there is a knock at the door, you will hear the frantic, hurried footsteps of your apprentice as she arrives at the door. And they come to a stop. You, of course, Andres, you will see this because you are gradually following. So she's been pretty much running as fast as she can down the corridors. But when she gets a short distance away from the door, she will stop, arrange herself a little bit. You, Abigail, will be aware that this is all happening. Like, you'll hear the sound of the footsteps stop, then you'll hear the sound of kind of rustling outside your door, and then you'll hear a knock, polite knock.
Come in.
So as Chenli comes in to see you, can you tell us what she will see?
She'll see Abigail. She's a rather short, thin woman, maybe early to mid-20s, with a slightly tanned skin, with a few freckles, auburn hair worn up in a braid, dark green eyes, and a deep scar going through her bottom lip. She wears clothes that they're well constructed and they're of nice fabrics, but they much more closely resemble the clothes that someone of the working class would wear rather than someone who's a noble.
Yes. Yeah, so this is something, Andres, you will know, is that Abigail is very understated in her appearance. And so it seems now is Chenli. So Chenli will bow to you and will come and stand kind of awaiting inside your office for you to acknowledge her or whatever you want to do. She's carrying, of course, a bundle of scrolls.
Yeah, I'll gesture. Put the scrolls on the table, please.
She'll do so.
I'm going to stand up and I'm going to start checking her work.
Okay. she will say in in an unnecessarily loud voice, I've been working on them diligently as you asked, Regent. So you begin to check through her work. I don't think, given your intelligence and occult, that I need to make you roll to notice that you have like shabby runes that she's been doing. I mean, they're better than they were, but she's got a long way to go. She lacks discipline, in your opinion. But then there is this one part where the two lines of runes intersect, which is one of the most complex parts of this section to inscribe, where there is a kind of bolder, more definite hand. I mean, they're by far the best runes depicted on this scroll. But nevertheless, the contrast in styles is stark to your eye.
You've definitely improved, but if you're going to have someone else do your work, at least attempt to disguise it. I'm going to slide the paper back towards her.
Okay. She will take it and looks pretty destroyed. You will hear this, of course, Andres, but you're kind of, the door is partly open to the study. You're still out in the hall, I'm assuming. You will hear this, and though neither of you are aware of this in real terms, you will be aware that there is the sound of someone's soul being slapped by a stain as they are shamed before their regent. And she mumbles a kind of apology and then says in a louder voice, I will do better next time. I swear to you, I will be better. I promise. I'm sorry for shaming myself in your presence. What must I do now, Regent?
Redo this 3 or 4 times, bring me the end result.
When should I bring it to you, Regent?
Tomorrow morning, tomorrow evening.
I will do it. Sorry, Andres, were you about to say something?
I was about to say, like, sort of hearing that if I could just sort of come towards sort of the door, like knock and then, well, knock first.
Sure. So there is a knock at the door.
Enter.
I open and I just sort of don't bow, but just nod. And I look to Regent Abigail and it's like, my Regent. Apprentice Chen Li, she has come to my quarters asking me to do these runes for her. And knowing and seeing her work, it's terrible. However, this is rune work that she is unfamiliar with. Western. And Chen Li, where are you from?
Sorry, your sound cut out for me there a bit. I didn't catch the last thing you said.
Damn it. No. I ask her, sort of Chen Li, sort of where is she from?
She will tell you. She's like, I'm from China.
And for their calligraphy, Chen Li, what does it look like? Could you provide us a demonstration, if you will?
She looks worried and she says, I have never been very good at calligraphy. And she says, but if you wish me to show you, I will.
Give it a try.
Okay.
I'll slide a piece of parchment forward.
Did you say you'll sigh?
No, I slide a piece of parchment forward for her.
Okay, you slide the parchment across the desk and she will have a go. You will note, despite the fact that her nervous system no longer works properly as she's a corpse, her hand still shakes. So she will show you some calligraphy. In your opinion, Abigail, it is still pretty terrible. Nevertheless, it is more natural. You know, she does it more quickly. She's not having to think as long to do it. And then she just waits,
With this,
quietly trembling as these two much more important vampires than her observe her slightly shoddy work.
I take sort of the recent sort of calligraphy with the rune work and sort of like kind of compare them. And now you see here, my regent, with this recent one, it's more natural, more fluid. With this in her, this Western, it's a bit more rougher, jagged, even. Have her practice her calligraphy first in her more natural state. If we want the best for our clan, they have to work best within their element.
A good point. Chinley, please practice your calligraphy of the day. Delay the redoing of the runes till the night after next.
She says, I will, and then will bow, and then turns. Oh, no, are you dismissing her, or are you leaving her? Do you want to stay?
I sort of wave my hand when I say that. So
Okay, so when you make that
we
wave
leave.
hand, she will bow to you, turn, and start to leave fairly quickly. She will mouth a thank you to you, Andres, as she passes. She won't say it out loud, but you'll see her lips move. And then she is gone from the room. Is there anything you two wish to say to each other now that Cheng Li has left?
Nothing Abigail has to say at the moment.
So Abigail will go back to her work. Andres, you will get the impression that unless you want to say something, you have also been dismissed by your regent.
I just take Chen Liori took her paperwork.
Yeah, she took
Correct?
the scrolls, yeah.
Even the most recent one?
Yes, she will have taken all of it with her, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Then Andres will just sort of kind of look around and just go, there needs to be more wards in this glorified library. My regent.
Abigail just looks up from her work, raises an eyebrow, and then just continues with what she's doing. Close the door on your way out.
He gives a nod. Of course, my regent. Pinche pendeja. And closes the door
So
behind him.
you've not been, you're just kind of stepping out of the office and about to close the door behind you when you see Cheng Li rushing back towards the office in a hurry.
Towards the...
Yeah, towards the regent's. So she's about to, you're kind of stepping out, about to close the door, and she is now she's still got the scrolls under her arms, and she's running back, looking a little bit wild-eyed and panicky.
I just close and just sort of walk towards her and just sort of, as in just stopping her first.
Okay. Yeah, she'll come to a stop and she says, "The knights are here. The knights are here. I've seen them from the window. What do we do?"
With calm, look professional. Don't panic.
Okay.
Look studious and at work.
She kind of marshals her expression into one of, studiousness. It's not super convincing, but it's not bad. She says, "Should I get the door?" I should tell the regent. And she looks like she's going to step past you unless you want to stop her.
I just sort of like kind of hold a hand up and
okay,
just
yeah,
sort
she'll
of
stop.
Look to her and go, "You have tasks at hand, apprentice. Let me
when you say you have tasks at hand, apprentice, she will bow and she will leave. What does Andres do after that?
Andres will go back to the door, not knock, just open, and just go, "The knights are here, my region."
Abigail will just nod, close whatever notebook she'd been writing in, and get up and go to the front doors herself.
Okay, so Abigail's making her way to the main doors. Andres, are you going with her, or are you going somewhere else?
I go with her.
Okay, so the two of you, Abigail in front, will make your way down to the entrance to the chantry. And when you get there, there are two figures, both sodden with rain, one of which, however, wears it well. And you have not one but two of the Knights of Oxfordshire at your door. This is quite an unusual event. In all other circumstances, you are normally summoned for the pleasure of the prince or his knights, should they wish to speak to you. And there's normally very much a kind of, it's very much a status thing, but they don't tend to come to you. So the fact that not just one, but two of them are here immediately will set Abigail's kind of political senses on high alert. So you come to the doors. They are both standing there. Over to you.
I'm going to open the door up and give what is clearly a very practiced bow. She's done this many, many times. Do come in.
Thank you,
To what I owe the pleasure of your company this evening.
We come on behalf of the prince. We have a matter that we need your help with.
I see.
And Thomas will enter.
I will enter, trailing behind, looking very sorry for myself.
Okay. Of course, Sir Francis, you will recognise Andres from the war. But yes, a sad Sir Francis will follow Sir Thomas. So assumedly you're taking them somewhere more appropriate to receive guests.
Yes. I'm imagining that there is a sitting room of sorts somewhere.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, of course. So you're taken to a fine sitting room. The chairs are not exactly built for Sir Francis in full armour, but there are chairs there if people choose to sit. And you soon...
This is a bit more urgent and get nice and comfy.
Okay.
So I will remain standing.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this is the second uh-oh for Abigail, that when you go into this nice room, because normally everything is very slow-paced and proper manners and proper etiquette. And the fact that Thomas doesn't go to sit is weird. Andres, you are put more in mind of a military feeling to this. This feels like you can almost feel that there is action coming. Something is about to happen. These are not moving like people who've come for tea. They're moving like people who've come to do something. Whether that's at your expense or not, you don't know, but you can feel it in the air.
I'll turn to the knights. So what exactly is it you need help?
Is it within your abilities to find another of our kind?
Of course.
Well, then you can help us. The prince asks you, as a citizen of Oxfordshire, Sir William is missing, and we cannot find him. If you were to help us locate him and retrieve him, we would consider this a great act to the city.
Of course. Where was he last that you know of?
So Thomas, you will all you will know is that he was supposed to come to a meeting with his sire and you and some of the other knights, and he never came. And Sir Francis, when you went to his dwellings, he left that evening and then just, never. He was seen leaving his home or his haven, and he never reached the meeting. So it's completely unknown exactly where he went missing, but somewhere on the streets of Oxford.
And was that the previous night?
Yes. Yeah, he's been missing a full night, and it's all very odd.
Thomas will turn and look at Sir Francis.
I will kind of stand up straight and try and look a bit more proud, and say, he has not been seen now for a night. There was a meeting he was to attend with Sir Thomas and the Prince and some of the other knights, and he failed to attend, which is obviously most unlike him. But he was seen leaving his haven. We just don't know what happened to him.
We'll need to start there then. If you would take me to his haven, and I will be able to begin the ritual once we arrive.
So you ready to leave now?
Yes.
I will start leaving immediately.
Okay. So Francis, without another word, starts marching out.
Thomas will turn to Andres and say, if you would help us retrieve Sir William, the city would consider your boons repaid.
This is a familiar thing. We've had eyes follow with Sir Thomas and the rest. I would gladly help of. I am a guest. Anything for the city.
Thank you.
So the four of you, make your way outside. The puddles now are getting deeper where you find them and splashing kind of high up your legs as you walk, particularly those of you who are marching heavily. And as the night sort of it's not that late yet, but nevertheless, as the night wears on, the roads are just empty. It is awful out here. You make your way across town to a rather nice city house where you are given to understand Sir William takes residence. In this poor light, it is mainly a kind of dark silhouette which the rain bounces off. Now, you mentioned, Abigail, that you were going to do a ritual. What ritual do you have in mind?
Illuminate the trail of prey.
So as a question, you can obviously do this ritual, and that's fine. You can also, if you wish, have Andres help you do the ritual. You can do it as an assist because he also has the ritual.
Yes.
Are you intending to do the ritual alone, or are you going to ask for his assistance?
I will take his assistance, make this as strong as possible. It's a missing night, obviously. So
when Abigail gives the signal, do you give your aid, Andres?
Absolutely. She is my regent, after all.
Of course. No, I mean, I know you have only the utmost respect for your regent. I just thought I would check in. So the two of you begin the ritual together. So Abigail, you are going to lead the ritual. Because of our homebrew assist rules, Andre's assistance will give you an automatic success. So if you could make your ritual roll, which I believe is intelligence and blood sorcery, the difficulty is 3 for this ritual.
I'm going to willpower that.
Okay. It's fair to say if you fail the ritual, that would count as bringing shame upon your blood.
That's a total of 4 successes.
Okay, so that is enough to complete the ritual. So the ribbon that you use for the ritual is, of course, burned. It is hard, of course, in these conditions to burn the ribbon, but nevertheless, it happens. And you begin to see a mystical ribbon of light tracing its way from your location off into the streets. Which I assume you're going to begin to follow it.
Yes.
Okay. Although you helped with the ritual, Andres, unfortunately, you cannot see the ribbon that she can see. In order to follow it, you are going to need to make an intelligence plus survival roll, Abigail.
Do I see it with aspects though? Since the unseen.
What an interesting idea. I tell you what, I will enable you to assist Abigail in following the ribbon because I like that. That's a nice call. What's your survival, Andres?
My survival is 2. Survival 2. Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Yes. No, survival 2.
Survival 2, did you say?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Abigail, you can
sorry.
add yourself an extra die for that survival skill from Andre's assistance. And then if you can tell us what you got for the benefit of people who are following us along with the podcast.
That would be 4 successes.
4 successes.
Yes.
All right. So it is difficult to follow the ribbon for a number of reasons. One is that it's just a really stinking, horrible night that you're out in. And the other is that the route he takes is not a logical one. There are points where you're following the road and then all of a sudden you take a sort of rapid turn and you go a little way and then you take another turn. And there is a point where it seems like you go back on yourself and then you seem to go maybe in some circles for a while, like halfway one way. It's very messy, but eventually you do set off in another direction across town. So for those of you who can't see the ribbon, this is bizarre. You're following Abigail. You know where she's going. There's a sense to which, she seems confident. They've definitely kind of waved their hands at points and muttered some things, and they've done stuff. It looks legit. But when you get to this point where they are seemingly kind of going back on themselves and going, you begin to, maybe some doubts might creep in as to whether they're wasting your time or not. Nevertheless, at some point, Abigail seems to find purpose once more. And you start heading east across the city. And eventually, you will come to a much, shall we say, lower rent part of town. Thomas, the further you go, the less you like it. The more you begin to feel like this is not a good place for good, noble people. It is a sort of filthy place that has the kind of alleys that one could get mugged in. And it just feels nasty and cramped and unpleasant. You don't really like to look upon it particularly. And you feel some part of you withdrawing into yourself, perhaps for self-preservation of your sensibilities, lest on some level they be corrupted by the kind of horrors about you. Which is obviously an elegant way of saying that your bane is in full force at this point. For those of you who are wearing ridiculously out of the century clothing, or indeed hideous monstrosities, you meet no one. And so therefore, things are pretty smooth. All of you will be soaked through. Obviously, as Kindred, you don't care so much for these things as once you might, beyond perhaps your dignity. You find yourself coming towards a set of large warehouses. that are in a reasonable condition, but a little bit run down. And you can see, Abigail, that the ribbon seems to be heading towards one of these warehouses and then comes to a stop at the doors of it. And Andres, you will also see this.
The trail seems to lead into a warehouse.
I should say there's very little in the way of lights here. This is a darker part of the city. Now, I know that for Thomas, this poses no problem. And indeed, for Abigail, your senses are sharp enough that you can, whilst you can't see into every shadow, you can nevertheless see well enough to navigate in the dark. However, for Sir Francis, it's really dark. How are you compensating for this in any way, or are you just stoically blundering along and hoping that you don't bump into anything?
I believe I have any means with which to compensate.
So you're not carrying a lantern or anything?
Yeah, okay, I will produce a lantern.
Okay.
From a satchel that I carry at my side.
Okay.
I will light it.
It is tough to light in these conditions, but eventually you will get it lit. Whilst Sir Francis is doing that, Andres, this is actually a relief to you because you can see the ribbon clearly. It is like a bright line in the darkness, but I believe that you do not have any supernatural senses to throw back the night.
Nope.
So in this place,
I can see the ribbon and go into the darkness.
Yeah, you can see the ribbon. You just can't see the street or obstacles or things like that. In the kind of nicer areas of Oxford, there were lanterns on the street, so you could see there fine. But here, it's not so much. However, when Sir Francis finally gets that lantern lit, and it's maybe slightly awkward watching this esteemed knight struggle with her gauntlets to get this thing done, but she does it. There's a sort of like, one person is going to win this no matter how many years it takes kind of approach, which eventually comes through in her favor. And it does help you a little. You can see a bit more. And in the lantern light, you will see some kind of small plaque above the doors to the warehouse that seems to depict some kind of company. Those of you with academics, which I believe is at least 3 of you, will know that this is a publisher's mark. For Thomas, you won't know this, but Abigail, I suspect you might know that this particular publisher produces some very trashy Gothic literature. It is not for the aristocratic, particularly, or at least not. It's not seemly to be seen with these kind of books. So you have your lantern.
Andres would just kind of make a comment, sort of saying, you said like sort of it's the publisher house, or
yeah, it's the publishing house. It's the publisher's mark. Yeah.
Andres will kind of make a kind of a comment, just a little bit like hush, but like for everyone to kind of still hear, just go, my regent, is this the publisher that you order books from for the library?
She doesn't dignify that with a comment.
Stony silence greets your question.
Yeah, I just
And
opened
you
the
will,
door.
you will feel the sting of it because you've been ignored by your regent in front of 2 of the most important people in the city, the scourge of the prince and what many consider to be the heart of Oxfordshire itself, Sir Thomas. And so you will get a stain. You feel it. Unless you have a conviction you can throw against it.
Let's see.
While you're checking that out, Sir Thomas, there is something strange about this warehouse. Something that both attracts and repulses your eyes at the same time. You have a conflict, as in there is something there that draws your attention, but there is something about it that also makes you want to not look. Are you giving it your attention?
I will give it my attention.
Okay. So as you look at the warehouse, your senses begin to sharpen in some way. And what strikes you, as much as this neighborhood is a place that you don't like, it feels like it is concentrated here. This warehouse somehow reeks of dishonor and the worst kind of death that one could ever hope for. An ignoble, maybe stabbed in the back kind of death. It is just a sordid, horrible place. And there is something about it that makes you not want to go in. There is a sense of heightened danger in this place, but also that this is just a place that is not meant for knights. This is a dark, horrible place, and every sense of yours says, do not go into this room or into this building. Now, you can, of course, still go inside, but it is worth saying that to do so will be difficult for Sir Thomas. And that if he does so, he will be subject to certain other joyous penalties, which I'll reveal to you should you decide to go in.
Okay.
But yeah, you feel this strong repulsion from this place. There is something horribly bad about it. And then after a moment, that kind of hypersensitivity fades a little, but the feeling remains.
And you're certain this is where William is?
This is where the trail leads. It could lead simply through, but he could be inside. This ritual only shows direction, not distance.
I see.
Notice Sir Thomas's discomfort.
Good question.
I think probably it's not very often that Thomas is kind of in these kinds of places. So I imagine it's yeah, he seems a bit different for sure.
Thomas, do you think I should go in first, perhaps have a look, scout it out?
I think there is danger in there. And if Sir William isn't there, we must get him out.
Must go in.
Yes.
Is there, obviously we can see the front kind of entrance. Is there any kind of side or perhaps maybe a back entrance?
Are you going to go and look for one?
Yes, I think so. Unless
Sure.
it's not me.
Is anybody preparing or doing anything I should be aware of that's clever, or are you just going to go march around looking for a sign?
Oh, yes. What would be clever is if I could activate Silence of Death and
You can
stop my
totally do that.
clanking.
Yeah.
And also Unseen Passage.
Sure. So
It's around.
if you could rouse once more, as I'm afraid we're in a new scene.
Oh dear.
For the to not get the stain, would remaining tactful, not brash, or honesty between brothers in arms? Because I'm trying to be like,
I'll let
hey,
you do honesty between
you buy
brothers
these
in
books
arms. Yes,
from-
honesty between brothers in
Okay.
arms will allow you to deflect the stain.
okay.
I do not go hungry.
And I
Okay.
would like to. Ooh, after you.
I think that just said that she didn't go hungry from the roll. So
Yeah.
Sorry, I passed my rouse check.
Excellent. So Francis, as far as most of you are concerned, she will begin to march towards the warehouse, and you will hear the kind of a splash of her boots in the rain and the clank of her armor one moment, and then with the next step you hear nothing, and then a few more steps as she makes her way kind of round towards the side of the warehouse. It seems as if the shadows swallow her up, and she is gone from sight. What are the rest of you doing? Are you simply waiting for Sir Francis, or are you taking action of your own?
I would like to sort of, if I can make a roll of any kind, if this seems familiar with the sort of my military background or from the war, of any instances that it feels like a trap or an ambush being set, or this feels like
Sure. Okay.
incredibly shady.
All right. I would like you to make a wits and academics with your military tactics specialty.
Ooh, okay. All right. So wits plus academics.
Yep. So academics
Okay.
using wits, and then it'll ask you any extra things, and you can add a specialty die.
So I do get a modification to it.
Yeah.
All right. So that's 1. Okay.
And whilst Andres is making that roll, what about you, Abigail? Are you taking any action, or are you?
I'm looking around the area, just seeing if I notice anything in particular
Sure, well,
about
you
the building.
Can see a little bit in the dark. So could you make me what to go for? I tell you what, could you make for me a wits and awareness roll?
Can I add my heightened senses?
Yes. You can
2
add your heightened
successes.
senses. So 2 successes, Andres. Okay. It's hard to put your finger on exactly why, but yes, there is something about this that does feel like a trap to you. Maybe it's just an old military instinct. It might also be that this particular warehouse has very poor visibility around it. There are several other warehouses. Some of these buildings have flatter roofs. There are a number of places you could station archers if you wished to, or people with muskets and firearms, things like that. You could potentially have people hiding in any of a number of alleys. It's an eminently good place to ambush someone from here. You do not feel very comfortable standing here right now. Abigail, what did you get?
4 successes.
4 successes. Okay. So the thing that you will notice is there are on this warehouse, slightly obscured, but nevertheless, with your keen senses and indeed your knowledge of if you were here, what might you do? There are some wards on this warehouse. They're not wards you know yourself particularly, but you have enough occult knowledge that you can get the gist of them nevertheless. One of them is a ward against ghouls. And the other, it seems to be a ward where the purpose of the ward seems to be to make this place harder to find. You suspect, had you not had magical aid or supernatural abilities to see things, you could easily just have walked past this place as if it wasn't there. Certainly for those unskilled, i.e. anyone from the other clans, this could easily have tricked them, had they not been brought here by you.
Are the wards reachable in any way?
Breachable?
Possibly reachable. Are they? Is it possible
they are
for me to
reachable, yes.
disfigure them?
Yeah, they're set that they are hidden, but they are nevertheless not. They're not utterly hidden. They're just kind of put in not obvious places. But of course, you know the kind of places you would put wards, and so it's easy for you to kind of pick out the ideal spots. So yes, you can reach them.
Is it possible for me to disfigure them and stop them from working?
Yeah. So you're going to approach the walls and begin to disfigure them?
I am.
Okay. So Abigail will approach and seems to be doing something to the walls. Thomas and Andres, are you doing anything whilst she does that?
I want to wait for Sir Francis to return.
Sure. So you're waiting for Sir
I'll
Francis.
just sort of make sure, like, I would have sort of my sword on me.
Sure.
I brought from, just kind of have it just drawn out and just sort of have my hand on the blade ready to sort of activate Scorpion's Touch if need be to draw blood onto it.
So are you preparing that now?
I'm preparing that now in case if things get terribly
that's
nasty.
great. So could you make, I believe that's a rouse check?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so while that's going on, let me just tell you something else, Abigail. Because you're close to the actual door of the warehouse now. You're defacing these symbols, assumably with a knife.
Yep.
And you are convinced that you have stopped them from working. So
Do I
there's
need to
no
make a roll
longer...
to check or anything?
Sorry?
Do I need to make a roll to make
No,
sure
no,
or
no, you
anything?
don't.
I do have a specialty in blood
So
magic.
essentially, because your intelligence and occult is as high as it is, I'm not bothering to make you roll because it is trivial for you to do this. As you are a very learned Tremere for your age. There is something else, however, as because you're close now. Now the rain is making everything have a kind of a damp smell, but now that you're right up by the doors and by the wall itself, you can smell something. It's a faint smell, but nevertheless, it is one which is unmistakable in your mind and immediately sets a tremor of fear through you. That deep primal part of you immediately says, you know what, we should leave right now. Because what you can smell, and you suspect to be able to smell it against the rain from out here, even with your senses, means it's probably in some serious quantity, is gunpowder.
Yeah, as soon as I finish defacing the wards, I take a large step back.
As you're taking a large step back, let me just go to Sir Francis. So, Sir Francis, you have made your way around the side of the warehouse, and indeed there is a back entrance.
I mean, is it obviously locked to start with?
I mean, it's obviously locked, but locks aren't a big issue for you.
Okay. I will listen first, see if I can hear anything.
Okay. Give me a quick... I assume, are you taking your time and listening for a long time, or are you having a quick listen?
No, I'm taking my time.
Okay, could you make a resolve and alertness roll for me?
Could I look at the runes that Abigail has been defacing to see
Yes.
if they seem familiar in my past?
Sure, yeah. So you approach, because you've seen Abigail up to something. You're not quite sure what she's been doing, but when you get closer, well, actually, you're still struggling to see because the light has gone around the... Actually, Sir Francis, I assume you took your lantern with you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very poorly lit here. So you can find Abigail, but you can't actually see. There's no light here at all because it's heavily overcast. The rain is torrential. So you find Abigail just about in the dark. You will have heard the scratching of something on the wall. You'll have heard the splash as she takes a kind of urgent step backwards. But beyond that, you don't really know what she's doing.
Okay.
Of course you can.
Could I feel the runes?
Can you feel runes? Well, it depends. If they were active runes, then possibly you might see the active magic. But however, they've been disfigured, so there is no active magic on them anymore. So no, you can't see them or feel them supernaturally. If they were etched in the wall, obviously you could feel them with your fingers, but unless someone guides you to where they are, there's no way that Andres is going to know whereabouts on the wall they are in the dark in these conditions.
Okay. I'll just mention to my regent to say, my regent Abigail.
Yes.
What has gotten your attention?
This place has been warded. Made difficult to find.
There is...
Could you lead me towards the wards?
I've already dealt with them. And we should stay back as we can. A single spark would set this place alight.
The So when she says that, your primal fear says, "What? let's get away from this place." One thing, Abigail, that you will realize, by the way, is these wards. You recognize them in part because they are, you would guess, Tremere in origin.
Yeah.
So, what did you get, Sir Francis? Sir Francis, what did you get?
3 successes.
3 successes. It is quiet inside. One might say ominously quiet. What would you like to do?
Okay. Is there anything odd out back at all? Anything out of the ordinary? No. Then
No.
I would return back to the group.
Okay. So,
There is one thing that I want to have been doing over this.
sure.
Because it suddenly dawned on me that we do not have like a horse or anything.
No, it does feel
carry
weird to be
someone out of
horseless
here.
in this situation. You do feel somehow like you're missing a limb or something.
And I wonder, I can use summon on my horse, right?
You can totally use summon on your horse, yeah.
Then I will do that.
Holy shit.
Elsewhere in
Oh.
Oxfordshire, a horse that had been sleeping wakes suddenly. Its ears prick up. It stands. And because, of course, this is not a horse that is locked in its stable, it's a trivial matter for this horse to open the stable door with its nose and canter out into the rain.
And I did go hungry from it.
Well, good. I like to hear. So that places you on hunger 2, is that correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. So the 4 of you have gathered.
I will report my findings. I will say there is a door at the back. I had a listen at the door and I could not hear anyone inside, which seems unusual. Did you find anything out here?
The place was warded, made
Sir.
difficult to find, and seems to be loaded with gunpowder.
Powder.
Sir Francis, can I borrow your light, if you will?
Me, Andre's eyes, as if seeing him for the first time. I think a flash of recognition would pass across my face, but I would then wordlessly, perhaps with a nod, hand in my lantern.
Okay.
I kind of just take the lantern, just sort of approach carefully towards the runes, the scratched out runes.
Take another step
Does it
back.
seem familiar?
Okay, so you
Of any?
you take the lantern, you approach the building. You're aware, of course, that you've been told there is gunpowder in this building, and though this is nevertheless a kind of sheltered lantern, so the flame is not naked to the air, you do feel a bit twitchy as you get closer. Abigail, you take an extra step back, just in case. So Andres, you get to the where this the runes are. And you also, with your level of skill, are able to identify that these are the kind of runes often used by your clan. One you recognize immediately is a rune against a ward against ghouls that's been placed upon the door, and the other ward is one that you're not sure. Actually, you haven't encountered it before, and you can make a roll for it if you want. But you will know that it is some kind of something to do with obscuring things, but beyond that, it's quite hard to identify. It's not a rune you've come across before.
Is the rune work seem familiar in not towards sort of? I know it's of a clan Tremere, but is it etched in a way that isn't on brand for clan Tremere?
Are you asking if you kind of recognize it in terms of the style of the person that made the ring?
Perhaps, yeah. If it was from
All right, I
either-
will require a roll for that.
Maybe.
Can you make a intelligence and a cult for me?
Okay. Ooh. Go up. And I also succeeded on my rouse check for the scorpion's touch.
Gotcha.
Occult plus intelligence.
Yes.
Would I get a modifier for knowledge against maybe with who I think we might be dealing with?
Sorry, I missed a bit of sound there. Modifier for knowledge against.
Against who I believe we might be up against, like Spot maybe,
Does this law sheet give any kind of...
Does your lordship give you an advantage here? I will say, if it does or doesn't, I will apply that to the difficulty, and you will just have to roll your dice and see.
Okay, I've got sort of trophy kill and sort of active participant.
Oh, I know what you've got. I'm just not
My
going to tell
second
you
roll.
because, you know,
Okay.
I hate to give things away for free. But if it does apply,
Fair,
I
fair
will
enough,
lower
fair
the
enough.
difficulty for you. And if it doesn't
Okay.
apply, I won't.
Cool. My bad. All right. Ooh. Interesting.
how
Four
many
successes. Four.
Four successes.
Yes.
Now, you're not 100% convinced, but you think, yes, maybe there is something. Maybe you have come across this style somewhere before. Maybe this is not a Camarilla inspired source, or at least maybe the practitioner who drew this ward you might have come across in the war, not on your side. It's not like a name pops into your head, you go, aha, this is this thing, but the suspicion grows a little bit in your mind. It feels like, yes, maybe you've got something here.
I move back sort of where everyone is, past the lantern back to Sir Francis, sort of kind of draw out the sword and sort of like put my palm like sort of where it is ready to cut and just kind of go, this is not of Camarilla work. Tremere, yes, but not of our sect.
We cannot let William dwell in this building any longer. Francis and Andres, if you would clear a path. And
I
Abigail.
suggest we use the door that you found around back. This one could very well be trapped in some manner.
Yes.
I will draw my flail and I will lead the way.
Abigail, direct us to where we need to go, where we need to find him.
Once we are inside and I can locate the trail once more, I will.
If it is an
Right.
ambush, we will make them regret it.
Armed, you move to the back entrance and prepare to engage. And at that point, we're going to take a break.
Did not see that coming.
I mean, I'm nothing. if
Smell
not predictable.
gunpowder in the air.
So, while we're on the break, I want to take this opportunity to say happy birthday, Phil.
Yay, happy birthday!
I hope you're having a lovely day and having lots of cake and treats. And I imagine you are, because if there's one thing we can rely on, it's that you probably have some sweet treats tucked away somewhere in your house.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I'm sort of wondering if the ghost of Dylan is going to appear at some point.
Hi, Dylan.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions for you. So one question asked by Elfins earlier actually was wondering whether at the outcome of the duel, Peter would reveal the humanity of the prince.
Oh, would I reveal Drogo's humanity?
Mm.
I don't know. I'm having this sort of weird, torn feeling, like, you know, that in some ways it probably doesn't matter at this stage, but in other ways, it just feels wrong. It feels wrong to tell you these things. How about, because probably when Tamesis comes to a conclusion, which will probably be at the end of season 3, we'll almost certainly do a kind of a debriefy hangout session where I will reveal all. So if you want to know the answer to that question, I promise I will answer it in
several months' time.
In several months' time. Yay! I'm sure that's what you want to hear. I guess though, no spoilers will be revealed if I say it was quite low. But I'll give you the exact number on that fateful day that we had to hang out.
One thing Phil says is he thinks he's eaten too much, but he's still eating.
Good for him.
Amice and Balance is asking who the best Scourge of Oxfordshire was.
It's very good.
It's Sir Francis, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, so far, Sir Francis has not been blood hunted out of Oxfordshire. It's probably better than her predecessor in many, many ways.
Yeah, that's very true.
But yes, the full story of the Bowman, as he is sometimes called in Oxfordshire legend, will be revealed in the next one-shot. So yes, obviously we're a bit biased. And I imagine in chat somewhere there are sad faces from Amice.
Phil was asking just for 3 guest players if they give us just some quick inspiration for what went into their characters.
Ladies first, if you want to.
Well, for Abigail, I was thinking I wanted a Tremere who, while definitely fitting the archetype of Tremere, ambitious and knowledgeable, I didn't want her to end up like a lot of my other characters, which is having already started with something there. So she basically started off as a servant and has clawed her way up since then.
Thank you.
So Francis obviously came wholly from my brain. My own creation. No, I just really like the idea of just taking obviously what had already been created and just kind of acting that role really, rather than creating something entirely new. I don't know. I just like wanted to play an Nosferatu for once. So.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think one of the fun things as well is that the Sir Francis that we see in like 2012 and 2001 is, shall we say, further down the road than the Sir Francis we meet here, and it's kind of a chance to, I think, explore what she was like before, which I think is a really cool thing to do.
A little bit more human.
Yes.
For mine, I usually, like with most of my characters, I always do a ongoing theme of like being from Latin America, sort of provide my own sort of sense of diversity to my characters. I was sort of thinking like, okay, it has to be of the New World, and I was thinking like, okay, what kind of clan he can be from, and Peter came up with the excellent idea of like having another Tremere, and sort of these two Tremeres just like coming into conflict. Very much the theme of the pen versus the sword, whereas Abigail is very knowledgeable, very studious, and is very much knowledgeable in much more worldly experience, has been out experience sort of where with Abigail's more into books, he's been out in practice with experience, with in conflict with the wars and so on. And yeah, just sort of very much polar opposite to Abigail Greenbriar.
Yeah, I did forget to mention she is a bit of a prodigy, and she is less than half of his age.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is kind of fun to play with is this idea of a regent who's kind of young for where she should be, and then a worldly experience, kind of older Tremere, and playing with that relationship between the two, where normally your age would grant you status and everything else, and in this case it doesn't. And then kind of playing that between them, that sort of uneasy setup. I think it's quite a lot of fun. And so far, you've both managed to avoid throwing yourself into social combat with each other. So, but we've still got time.
We'll see how long that can last.
Yeah,
just
the
sly comment here and there, just sort of like asshole, dumbass, and just
I'm
just
really
like,
sad you were able to avoid that stain.
I was being honest. Like, you bought those books. I was like, oh, dude, is this where you buy that?
Are there any other questions, Dylan?
So I'll leave you with the last question of what did you guys have for breakfast?
Oh, classic.
And then you can continue with the game.
I didn't have breakfast. Let's just rip that plaster off.
Shame.
I just had a standard bowl of tropical granola.
I had
didn't
3
check my
whole
words on that.
slices of
I didn't
pizza.
say what I thought.
3 whole slices
Best
of
breakfast.
pizza.
And I just had a banana, an orange, and 2 biscuits.
We've got a good spectrum of breakfast there. I should say I had some porridge with honey, for those of you that care, and a nice cup of coffee. All right, so before we go into the second half of the session, I just want to mention that obviously next week we have the third of our Memoriams, which will be set in 1962. I will probably mention this again at the end. And then following that, there is going to be a mini-series where Titus is going to come back into the storyteller's chair, and he's going to run a chronicle set in Manchester called a Manchester Requiem, I believe. And that will be lots of fun. So do come join us for that. And then when that is over, so we've basically got next week is the third Memoriam, then 4 weeks of the Manchester mini-series. And then after that, we are going to go back to season 3 of the main Chronicle, Blood on the Tamesis. Because if you're like me and you like to know what you're doing for the next few months of your life, now you do.
Do we want to guess how many player characters Titus is going to kill before it's over?
Oh yeah, we could do a sort of sweepstakes.
4 sessions.
I mean, I think there's got to be a kill rate of 1 per session. So at least one of the players will have died twice by the time we get to the end, which is, it's a good solid batting average, I think. So talking of characters dying, the 4 of you are approaching a warehouse that you've realized had magical wards on that you've obviously defaced. That Thomas has had a terrible premonition of this place being an awful building of death. And death of the worst kind. It is dishonorable, terrible death. Every sense of his screams at him not to go into this building. Nevertheless, because he is a courageous knight of Oxfordshire, he is going in anyway.
Just after these 2. Obviously.
Just after, yeah. Just not first. I understand. I'm going to assume that, Sir Francis, you are going first.
And I would think I still have my Silence of Death. And I would have dropped Unseen Passage, I suppose, wouldn't I?
You don't have to have done.
Okay, I'll
you
keep
can
it
have been
up.
a whispered voice in the darkness. I mean, you will be visible to these people with you, the other kindred, but you would still remain, the power remains in force for should there be other people inside.
I would pass my lantern back to Andres.
Okay.
I would have.
So there is a door. It is a small door. It is. I mean, you will fit it through it, Sir Francis, in your armor, but it's not going to be easy. There'll be a bit of squeezing through. You certainly couldn't jump through.
Just break it down.
It is locked.
Okay.
It is not the greatest quality door you have ever come across in your own life.
Simply just punch it and break it down. Am I right in thinking my silence of death would cover the sound of the door crashing?
It will certainly cover the sound of your fist connecting with the door, yes.
Okay, then I will do so.
Okay. So for the rest of you that can see this, it's a little odd in that clearly Sir Francis hits this door in a way that the door does not like at all. But there is no sound. It is a silent thing. Nevertheless, the lock will splinter and the door will swing open into a dark warehouse packed with boxes. It is very hard to see the entirety of the space. However, the boxes are stacked up in such a way that you can move between them if you wish. I assume you are. So Sir Francis and Andres will be going first, I'm going to guess, followed by Abigail or Thomas?
Abigail, she's looking for the other side of the trail.
So you will... it takes you a while because the ribbon... He didn't come in through this door, you'll realise. So you're kind of searching it out as you move deeper into the warehouse. It feels a little like kind of a maze in here with these boxes because they're in stacks and you can move past and around them, but your visibility across the warehouse is impaired by this. Now that you're inside, Thomas, even with the horror of this building stunting your supernatural senses, you can nevertheless smell gunpowder. A lot of gunpowder. Abigail, you realise you were not wrong. You can now smell it also. You can also sense, Thomas, that feeling of awfulness and danger ramping up. I should add, because you have forced yourself into this building, your senses naturally recoil from it. So not only does your bane severity currently apply to your disciplines, it also applies to any perception checks that you make. Because you don't want to look at this building. And perhaps it's your imagination, but increasingly it's almost like you can smell old charred wood and bones in your nostrils. As if your sense of what this building will bring is starting to infect your sense of the present. You have this strong sense that you may not leave this building alive, or at least undead. After a while, however, as you push forward into the warehouse, you will, Abigail, see the ribbon. And here it is easy for you to follow it. Andres, you will also see the ribbon. You will lead the rest of them to a place in the warehouse where you will see Sir William. He has been laid on top of some boxes. Oh, Abigail, you're relatively sure from the other smell, apart from the gunpowder, is these boxes are full of books. Lots and lots and lots of books.
Very flammable.
Very flammable indeed. Sir William has been laid out on top of these boxes. This is not the highest stack. Some of the stacks are taller than you, even you, Sir Francis. But this particular stack is only a couple of boxes high. Sir William has been laid out on it. He is wearing a cloak and quite a nice shirt with like a lacy ruff at the collar. He looks, I should say, like someone that died a long time ago and then began to putrefy and mummify. You know, he is pretty unpleasant to look at. And those of you with heightened senses will also find he has an aroma of death that is, it's not that cool, sexy vampire brand of aroma of death. It's more the kind of zombie end of aroma of death. So it is quite unpleasant to your nostrils. The thing that all of you will also notice, particularly as the lantern light begins to kind of cast over him, is that there is something sticking out of his chest. It looks like a stake.
Oh, no.
immediately look to Sir Thomas for guidance.
Okay. You look to Sir Thomas for guidance.
Thomas will rush to Sir William.
Okay.
He will take the stake out.
Okay. As Sir Thomas is making his way towards Sir William, can Abigail and Andres make a wits and occult roll for me, please?
Does blood
Yes,
sorcery apply to this?
sir.
To my specialty, I mean.
Yes. Your blood sorcery specialty will apply.
No. Wits plus occult?
Correct.
Okay.
Four successes, and I'm going to burn a willpower just because I have a feeling this is important.
Okay.
3 successes. 3 for me.
So 4 successes from Andres.
6 successes for
And 6
Abigail.
successes from Abigail. Not that we're in a competition, but that's okay. So I will let those successes carry over for future reference to what I'm about to talk about. But from this distance, Andres, something will strike you about this stake, and that is that it seems to have runes carved into it. And you think, even from here, this is a ritual that's well above your pay grade, but nevertheless one that, as a Tremere with your background, you have heard of. And this is a ritual that is used when you really, really want to kill a kindred, like really super kill a kindred. You would not be surprised if Sir William is actually already dead, given that he has got this stake sticking out of him from this distance. It is a ritual practiced by the most powerful Tremere. Abigail, on 6 successes, you will note that it's made of rowan wood. Both of you, by the way, the kind of runes that you can see are the sort of runes that make you slightly fearful, because they're runes that are designed to bring about the death of kindred, and being at the wrong end of them is fatal. Abigail, you will know that if this stake has not yet pierced Sir William's heart, it will be working its way to do that. It is a matter of time before the stake will kill him, regardless of anything else. Are either of you saying anything to Sir Thomas as he rushes forward towards Sir William's body?
I'm going to call out, get that out of him as quickly as possible. It will kill him.
Then I will do so.
So, in moments, Sir Thomas has crossed the space to Sir William. You wrap your hand around the stake, and as you pull it free, it comes free fairly easily. In fact, it snaps off in your hand, leaving the tip inside his chest.
I'm going to go.
I would discard the stake.
You toss the other half of the stake aside.
Same as well.
We have to get it all out of him, or he will die, even if a sliver is left.
Well, then we must get out of here, and we must take it quickly.
We need to get this out first. If while we're moving him, it could very well make its way to his heart.
We cannot remain in this building.
Where is everybody's attention right now? Obviously, Sir Thomas and Abigail are having a conversation. What about you, Sir Francis? What are you?
Obviously listening to what's going on, but also keeping a little bit of attention, looking around every now and then.
Okay. And Andres, what about you?
I would sort of like seeing the regent sort of talking sort of with Sir Francis, trusting her that with her knowledge and so on, that she knows what she's up to, as well. Like kind of keep an eye on this. Like this is 100 degrees worth of shade. This is not good.
Okay, so it is in that case. What happens is this. Abigail, you were obviously very worried about Sir William and what could happen and the need to get it out. And your eyes are often kind of glancing towards where the stake must be. Time is of the essence here. Thomas, you are also concerned, and kind of this whole thing is throwing you off your normal game. And so it is that neither of you are prepared for the spark. So Francis and Andres, however, you will see the spark. Now, you have a moment to act before whatever else is going to, shall we say, explodes. What are you going to do? This is not I make a eulogy about life kind of length of action. This is a sort of fairly instant, you have a few moments to act. So what do you both do? Let's start with Andres.
Damn it. I sort of like kind of pull out my sword, like sort of now sort of like seeing the spark, I rush towards it to see like if there to kind of cut where the spark is going, just like centimeters away from it.
Sure. So you're rushing to try and cut off the spark before it reaches the explosive flammable thing. And Sir Francis, what about you?
Holding Sir William currently.
No one is holding Sir William, I believe.
Right, then I will rush up to him and I will cradle him in my arms and I will bellow, "Get out!" And I will leave.
And how are you leaving?
I'm leaving, the way that is away from the spark is the answer.
Okay. I more meant what manner as in, are you running? Are you charging through a window? Are you leaping?
I'm charging the fastest possible exit. I'm charging.
All right.
Yeah.
The building's made of wood, right?
Yeah.
Just charge through the wall, surely.
Yeah, like a bull.
Superhero.
Okay. You grab Sir William and you start running for the nearest exit, even if that means making a new one yourself. And Andres, you charge towards the spark to try and put it out. So let's just kind of quickly resolve these actions and then see whether anyone else's actions become relevant. So I'm going to start with you, Andres. Can you just make me, I think this is a dexterity and athletics roll. It's about how quickly you can cross this distance. Let me know if you're arousing the blood.
I would like to rouse the blood to up my dexterity.
Yeah, sounds like a good call. So
I don't get hungry. So athletics plus dexterity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as the spark fizzes. All right.
I'm going to re-roll a willpower
you
for
may
that.
want to spend some willpower.
Good choice, good
If your
choice.
storyteller giving you some advice, you may want to do that.
Okay. Re-roll 3. Yes!
Nice.
That is 4, the 2 10s, 5, 6 successes.
So
Crit win. Yeah.
6 successes.
Crit
now
win.
you say crit win, but
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
2 10s.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought I was briefly excited about the idea it might have been a messy crit, but it's not, is it? Okay.
Never.
So what happens is this: you throw yourself, and you barely make it by the barest of margins, but you end up kind of diving. You know, in that sort of bodyguard, kind of, you dive across the space, and just as that little flame is following its trail towards where you suspect there is a large amount of gunpowder that is going to make everything really exciting, you ruin the rest of the thing for the storyteller by landing on the spark and snuffing it with your body in that moment. However, as you are laying there, realizing that you have saved everybody's unlives, almost certainly with your heroism, you see someone coming in through the door where the spark was coming through with a torch and a fairly suicidal expression on their face. They are wearing fairly simple clothes, shapeless, cheap, sack-like material. They're carrying a naked torch and an expression of determination. They are not looking at you. Their attention seems fixed just past you. Around this point, Sir Francis, you have Sir William in your arms. You make contact with the wall of the warehouse. There is a splintering of wood. The warehouse loses. And you barrel through into... You begin to kind of move into the rain with Sir William in your arms. It is at this point, Thomas and Abigail, you can react. What are you doing?
Okay, using my ritual preparedness, I want to down a vial of essence of air, grab Sir Thomas, and fly out of there.
Okay. So Thomas, are you wearing armor?
I imagine so.
Oh no.
That will make this significantly more difficult to get Sir Thomas out. It doesn't mean you can't try it, but I just mention it.
Yeah.
Come on, Abby.
I imagine heading out to find a missing knight is the kind of situation that you wear armor to, right?
Yeah.
I will rouse the blood to up my strength so I can carry him.
Okay. So you imbibe this concoction of yours, which of course, being prepared is one of the things that Abigail always aspires to be. And you grab hold of Sir Thomas. Sir Thomas, this does not follow the common rules of etiquette.
Unhand me.
Are you resisting Abigail grabbing you? She's not grabbing you like someone who is terrified and needing your protection, which is one of the things you might have thought was an acceptable thing to happen in this situation. She is grabbing you like someone who is attempting to move you.
Am I able to blink with another person?
Yes.
Then can I use this opportunity to blink us both out of the warehouse?
Sure you can. Can you, Abigail, nevertheless make your strength roll? I'm
Just straight strength?
So it's going to be strength and athletics. I'm going to give you, nevertheless, some additional die because you are moving very fast as you begin trying to lift up. What's wrong, Mitch?
I'm just considering that Andres has just ran into the room and there is a person there with a torch, and that maybe actually the honourable thing is to help him. I'm just thinking as a kind of chivalrous, honourable knight.
I suppose it depends whether you consider saving the regent more important than saving a citizen of Oxfordshire. Oh, sorry, no, he's not a citizen of Oxfordshire. A guest of Drogo's.
But hospitality is a thing, right?
That's a big thing. It's up to you. I don't think either action will gain you dishonor, if you like. It's not clear cut enough that I would wave my finger at you and say, no, this goes against your convictions. So you can choose.
I think I would in fact blink away and towards this person to put my sword through their face.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Can you make for me a very quick attack roll then, Thomas? And Abigail, I'd still like you to make that strength athletics. Can you add, though, to your pool an extra 3 dice?
I'll just roll an extra 3.
Oh
Only
no!
2 successes.
Okay, 2 successes, that's fine. I'll tell you what happens about that in a moment. Thomas, what did you get?
Why did it not roll any hunger dice for me?
Because it likes you. Special treatment.
What's your hunger? Is your hunger at 0 or?
This is a glitch that happens with the Roll20 thing sometimes.
Okay, so I will willpower this as well. Right, so that is 7 successes.
Okay. So what happens is this. Abigail, you grab Thomas with an intent to try and lift him up into the air. And as you grab him, you suddenly find yourself moving incredibly fast. So fast, you don't quite know what's happening. You're just the way you were trying to go up.
Yeah.
And Thomas, as you flash towards the door, something weird happens, which is that your feet begin to lift the ground. Because you're going so fast, and Abigail is trying to go up, you effectively do like a brief airplane maneuver. Nevertheless, the skill with your sword is such that you put you're aware that your blade bites into the flesh of the man's face as you pass. And Andres, you will be able to witness the man fall dead next to you on the ground. But Thomas has already gone effectively past, like he's done this as he's going out. He's just kind of killed him on the way out. For a moment, Thomas, you find yourself gliding through the air. Abigail, you will take 2 points of superficial damage as you are slammed into the door frame. Like you go through it, but you nevertheless, because you're trying to lift him up and it's quite a cramped space. But you have got Thomas outside, and for a moment, and I should say in the next round that moment is going to end, you are sailing upwards into the air together with his momentum. But any second now, gravity and armor
We're flying, Buzz.
Gotta double check how long Essence of Air lasts.
Andre.
Woody, we're falling with style.
As the rest of your group leave in various directions, one through the wall and the other through the doorway, you alone are left in the building. The torch goes flying from the dead man's hand and lands not on the gunpowder, but frighteningly near it. What do you do?
How frighteningly close is it?
I mean, it could go any second. So the question is, are you going to leave? Are you going to try and remove the torch from the danger zone? You are by the door.
I don't want to kill
To get to the torch would require going further inside, so it's a higher risk, but it would mean the building wouldn't explode. But it would be a high risk, and you would then be next to the explosion should it happen. Your call.
Can I... How close is the fire to where I am?
Sorry, how close is...
The torch to where I am?
The torch is quite close to you, but to get to it, you're going to need to get up, move across, like a little bit further back into the warehouse to grab it. But you can totally do it. It just is a higher difficulty than leaving. That's all.
Could I use corrosive vitae to either sling that onto the fire to have it be like splashed out, or?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
I'm assuming corrosive vitae is not by inherent nature flammable. So you could try it.
Doesn't say. Yeah, so it's just only might corrodes through handcuffs.
I mean, it would corrode through the torch and potentially stop the, if you like, the trail of fire. It is, again, a risky strategy, but it's a cool strategy. So,
I mean, rule of cool. Let's do it.
Okay, rule of cool. He was a
I
great character, and everyone will remember this, whatever happens.
remember me. But yeah, I'll need to make a couple rouse checks.
Sure. Meanwhile, Thomas and Abigail, you are outside in the air, and then all of a sudden you are coming downwards very rapidly. Thomas, nevertheless, will be able to rescue this from being a horrible, awkward situation into being a fairly sensible landing situation. And you'll both find yourself skidding to a stop. You will be aware, by the way, now the water comes up to your ankles in places on the street. The rain continues to pour through the night. So, Francis, you are now definitely out in the street. You have left the warehouse behind. What are you intending to do?
Have I rejoined the others, or am I at the back of the warehouse?
You went out through the side of the warehouse and they went out through the back. So it's up to you what you want to do. This is all happening beat by beat. So what would you like to do?
Okay. Well, I told everyone to get out, so I suppose I would check to see if they are behind me.
They have not followed you out through the wall.
Okay, then I would check out front to see if they were there.
So you start going to look for them. So, Andre, how did you do?
I succeeded, and I'm just ready to make whatever roll I need to splash that blood onto...
I believe this is going to be a composure and... Oh, what skill would we use to fling corrosive blood on something?
Blood sorcery.
Athletics? Occult, maybe?
Yeah,
Or
you can.
discipline, yeah.
You can choose. You can use occult or athletics.
I'm going for occult because that's got more. I'm gonna also rouse. You said resolve or composure?
I said composure.
Okay, I'm gonna rouse the blood once more. To
Believe me, this takes composure to pull this shot off.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll the blood. I do get hungrier, but I do have more dice. Okay, so composure and occult. All right. Do I add my blood sorcery as a modifier to it, or
Yes,
not
you
at
do.
all?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's 3 and that is 6 successes. 6.
6 successes. Okay. So with 6 successes, the fire goes out. And you find yourself still intact and not on fire. And feeling quite relieved. So the 4 of you will soon be able to gather up somewhere away from this warehouse of death.
Abigail would honestly do something pretty stupid. Once she and Thomas were out, she would have tried to go back in to get Andre, because she's regent and he's under her care.
Okay, so probably by the time you go back in, Andres has put the fire out. So you find the threat is over. There is a dead man in the room.
I'm gonna grab Andre and fly him out just in case there's someone still about to come in and then set the place on fire.
So the 2 of you fly out to safety. It's fair to say if there were anyone else here, they are not stepping out to attack you. And you seem to be just the 4 of you alone. What are you doing?
Does my horse arrive sometime around
Yes.
now?
Your horse will
what
come
about-
galloping dramatically through the rain.
I am going to remind Sir Thomas that we need to get the fragment of steak out of I forgot his name.
Sir William.
Right now, or else he's going to die.
Push forward with him and kind of hold him out to Abigail.
I am not a medical practitioner. I do not know how well I would be able to do this, and I am not the fastest person, physically speaking.
So
The speed you displayed, Sir Thomas, if you can use that.
it does strike you as well that this is a terrible environment to perform any kind of delicate procedures in. You're out in the middle of you're out in the city at night, in the open, in the rain. This is a bad place to be.
I will take Sir William.
I'll hand him over very gently, like a baby.
And I will put him upon my horse.
Okay.
And I will say, return to Barrington Manor. I will get him there as quickly as I can, and I will try to remove this fragment from him. And then I will climb on my horse, and I will linger and kiss my horse so that I can increase its physical stats and it can run a lot faster.
Okay. You bite into the flesh of your horse's neck, and for a moment its eyelids flutter in barely contained ecstasy. It makes a strange noise of horse pleasure. And then you are going very fast, and you gallop off into the night. Now, I assume that the rest of you are diligently going to go to Barrington Manor as you've been instructed. Barrington Manor, I should say, is not in the city at all, and it's going to be a no small job for you to get there as ordered. Nevertheless, a Knight of Oxfordshire has ordered it.
Sorry, is that where we came from?
You were in the Ashmolean Museum.
Oh, okay. Well, then I mean there. Like,
okay. So this is a slightly less horrendous prospect for you all. So I assume you are heading to the Ashmolean Museum.
Yes. Bring the corpse with me.
The corpse of the man, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
You pick up the... Sorry, Abigail?
Finish what you're saying and then I'll ask my question.
Sure. So you, Sir Francis, you collect the corpse and you make your way... This is no new thing for you to be doing. And you make your way to the Ashmolean Museum. Sorry, Abigail, go for it.
How dense are the clouds at the moment?
Very dense. Thick.
Okay,
the rain seems relentless and endless.
So if I were to go up into them, I would not be seen.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No one is going to see you.
The speed of flying is faster than walking, so I am going to go straight up into the clouds and fly towards the museum and then the library and then go down so I can get there as fast as possible.
Yeah, well, also you can then cut across the streets.
Yeah.
You will probably be able to get there very close to when Sir Thomas does. So Francis, you will of course know certain special routes that you can take. What about you, Andres? You're in a city that you vaguely know. Sir Thomas rushes off on a horse. Sir Francis just abandons you. And your regent flies off into the night sky. What are you doing? Having just put your own life on the line to save these ungrateful scumbags, you've been abandoned in the rain. What are you doing?
I would like to investigate this place about, like, because I still have the torch, correct? Not the torch, the lantern.
Do you have the lantern, Sir Francis?
I never took it back, so he still has it.
So yes, you still have the lantern. You can totally investigate the place if you want.
Yes, I would like to sort of investigate sort of from the runes, the stake, just sort of get this place a full, thorough search through.
Okay. So one of the things riding off your earlier successes that you will become aware of is, whilst you are not capable of inscribing the runes yourself upon this stake, and whilst you do not know this ritual, nevertheless, it strikes you that there is something off about the runes. I don't mean as in that their nature is horrendous and baneful. That is also true. But what I mean is that the person that did this maybe was trying to punch slightly above their weight. Maybe this was not a master of this exceptionally hard to perform ritual that performed this ritual. You're not
Does
sure
the rune work seem...
you're not sure exactly what's wrong, but something tells you this is not. It's not. These runes are not perfectly inscribed upon the stake.
Does the runework seem familiar, writing-wise?
It's hard to say. Maybe a little bit. You couldn't put a name to it, but you have this nagging suspicion. Maybe you recognize it from somewhere. Not that you necessarily knew the person that did it, but you might have seen something like this once before.
I would grab sort of and look. Well, the corpse. Sir Francis has the corpse.
Yeah.
Okay. Could I see the room where the person just came out of? Hello?
Sorry, can you see? I didn't catch that.
Could I see the room where the ghoul or the person came out from?
Well, they came from the street through the door that you did.
Okay. Is any of the books that is made within this kind of burnable pile familiar?
So when you examine the books, there are a number of Gothic romances. Huge numbers of them, in fact. Should you enjoy it, and of more than one title, should you be interested in Gothic romances, you are in the right place. Admittedly, some of them do smell a bit of gunpowder.
I would sort of just take it's just the stake that has the runes, correct?
Yes, it's only the stake that has the runes on it, yeah.
Okay. I would take sort of the stake and go to sort of where where Abigail sort of destroyed the runes. If I could just copy it, with some parchment and some graphite, make an
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly also lots of paper and things around here you can use. So yes, you can make a copy of the runes. You can make rubbings of the runes. That's not a problem. And then when you've done that, what are you doing?
Just sort of gathering all the evidence that I can. Head back as quickly to the museum as quickly as I can.
So you begin to make your way as fast as you can through the streets. Meanwhile, in another part of Oxford, Sir Thomas, closely followed by Abigail, will arrive at the Ashmolean Museum. And as you approach, the doors will be opened by Jason Alcott, who seems to have, Thomas, because as you get to the Ashmolean, your senses will recover from this horrible experience you've been having. He's actually got the door open a crack and is peeking, waiting to see if anyone's coming. And when you then approach, he will, as if, just seamlessly open the door for you.
Is the door big enough for me and my horse to get through?
Yes, it is.
Then I would ride the horse into...
You ride the horse into the museum. And are you riding off towards wherever you think Drogo is?
I just need a place with light and, somewhere to lay down.
There is a place. There is a place with light. Abigail, you will also be dropping from the clouds.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother landing on the ground. Just down and into the building.
So you are going to this chamber. What are you doing?
With my 6 successes earlier on identifying this stake, would I know if it is possible for me to actually corrode the sliver that's left away using corrosive vitae?
You know it is possible. You know also that it will be very difficult because you will be applying your corrosive vitae around these bits of stake, potentially around his heart. Yeah. But yes, it is possible. You could do it.
Okay.
It would be a bold and unprecedented move, but it could be the beginning of a whole new procedure that you could put your name to. Could be the thing that makes you, possibly.
I think Thomas is waiting for guidance from the one who knows what's going on.
I'm going to do whatever I can to get those slivers out, so I'm going to start applying my vitae to them and trying to disintegrate them.
Okay, so Sir William is laid out for you to begin this procedure. I imagine you're kind of gathering yourself as best you can and making sure you've got even with your senses, a bit of extra light to see what you're doing and that kind of business. And whilst this is going on, a number of things will happen. One is that Drogo will arrive, having heard the commotion of a horse in the museum, and will say, Thomas, what is going on?
William has been staked by some sort of enchanted stake. Abigail is trying to save his life.
His eyes narrow. He says, enchanted, you say?
Yes, that is what I'm told.
Told by whom?
By the Tremere that joined us.
His eyes narrow a fraction further. So, Abigail, you are examining the chest of Sir William. It looks to you like the tip of the stake has shattered into a number of fragments. You're not an expert on the ritual that was used on this stake, but it is your understanding that somehow those fragments have been imbued with some kind of life of their own, and they will be seeking to reach deep into his heart. And should they do so, he will be destroyed. So, as you're obviously very aware of the pressure to do this, you're also aware that monkeying around near the heart of a kindred, when they have it's not just one tip, it is shattered within his chest, and all of the tips, you believe, or all of the fragments are active. So you're looking at this, and a bit of you trembles at the idea of the complexity of the task you are about to attempt. As a question to you, it will occur to Abigail that she could try and get help from another expert of the occult. But obviously waiting for someone like Andres to return risks the shards getting deeper. However, if he were here, he would be able to help you. So my question to you is, do you want to wait for assistance, or are you going to forge ahead heroically on your own?
I'm going to look to Sir Thomas. If you can utilize your speed to get Andre here, it would be a great deal of help, but I need to get these removed as fast as possible, and I'm going to start attempting to remove them.
I will go and leave Abigail alone with Drogo.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yes,
bad,
I will ride. I will ride out
Okay.
to get Andres.
So Drogo, you will be aware, Abigail, begins to pace kind of around you and William. And he is clenching and unclenching his fists. And you have this horrible sense that he's keeping himself together, but only just. You have the sense of being almost like he's stalking you, like a predatory animal stalking around you. It will not take that long for Thomas to locate Andres and bring him here. Obviously, to Abigail, it will feel like several decades, but it is actually quite a swift thing. Sir Francis will arrive at this point, and you all find yourself in the Ashmolean. Jason will close the doors to the museum behind you all, and will lead the horse somewhere more appropriate. So, when you're about to begin this procedure, Drogo will say, I am watching very closely indeed.
Of course, my prince.
Okay. So you can make this as a medicine roll, or you can make it as an occult at a higher difficulty.
A cult would be much better because I don't have medicine.
Sure.
I would
So I
do
think
with the
this
cult
is,
as well.
this is, yes, you're going to assist, I'm assuming, Andres?
Yeah, I would like to assist and also with occult as well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of you crouch over the body, and Abigail attempts with your guidance, Andres, to burn away these slivers of steak. So for this, I would like you to make a resolve and occult roll. Your
Both of
blood
us?
sorcery specialty will not apply for this roll. I'm
Yeah,
afraid.
I figured.
You will get one success from Andres. I should warn you, the difficulty is not low.
Since I'm using my actively using my corrosive vitae, do I add anything from my actual blood sorcery as a discipline?
I'll give you an extra dice.
So Thomas is just standing with Drogo at this point and trying to stop him from losing his shit.
So you will end up when Abigail begins, Sir William will actually react. It's like he's not quite fully in torpor. And when she begins to probe around the area of his heart, he will twitch. And when he twitches, Drogo moves forward. But you, of course, are there. So instead of going through you and then through these two Tremere, what he actually does is he kind of effectively walks into an embrace with you. You feel one of his hands kind of cup the back of your head, one move around the middle of your back. And he's watching, horrified, over your shoulder, but you will feel his teeth touching the pressure of them on your armor of your shoulder. Although the actual, you're armored, so you won't feel that he can't actually bite you. But nevertheless, you'll feel that familiar pressure of his teeth at your shoulder. And you are aware that for now, your mere presence is stopping him from losing it. That may change depending on what happens. So how'd you do?
Andre's helping.
7
Andrea's
success.
helping me gives me an extra success, right?
Yes.
That's right.
That's done 8 successes.
8 successes.
8 successes is very, very impressive indeed. So you begin to work, and you realize not long into this procedure that what you're trying to do is essentially impossible. You are trying to extract living, magically enchanted fragments of wood. The sole purpose is to penetrate the heart. And as you move to try and extract one or destroy one, you are in some ways making it easier for the others. Nevertheless, you are aware of the pressure that rides upon you, and you continue to work. But as I say, this is in many ways an impossible task. And so I want to present you with a choice. Because you got so many successes, there are 2 ways this can go. And it's up to Abigail which she wants it to be. So one, and I should add that whichever way you choose, there is a reasonable chance that Andres might realize what you've done because he's assisting you.
Okay.
And your choice is this. You can remove pretty confidently all of the shards, but to do so will cause Sir William a horrendous amount of pain and injury. But you think you could get them all out. You also think that such a thing is very likely to provoke Drogo further. But that is the best chance you have of saving Sir William's own life. But it would look to an observer like you were doing pretty awful things to him. Or you can make it so that you remove most of the shards, and you certainly make it so Sir William would have quite a long time. But it is possible at some point that one of these shards might actually finish him off. But you would look like the hero that saved Sir William.
Sir Thomas is there, and he's the only reason she was actually allowed into the city. So she's going to do everything she can to save his life. So
she is going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So
goodbye.
The work, and it's worth saying that the work you do is exquisite. Both of you, both Andres and Abigail, perform in a fashion that, you know, if your sires or masters could see you, they would be proud at how far you've come along, at how well you do this. You're dealing with rituals you barely understand and that are lethal. And nevertheless, you are able to find a way using your ingenuity and your skill to adapt. And this is something the Tremere prize very, very highly indeed. However, as you begin to use your corrosive vitae around Sir William's heart to corrode the first of the shards, Sir William begins to moan in agony. And Sir Francis, from your point of view, it's very hard to escape the idea that there is a Tremere with her hands inside Sir William's chest, and Sir William is starting to writhe on the spot. It is an uncomfortable thing. It is an unpleasant thing. And it does occur to you that she could just be murdering him right here, and not just in a quick, painless, honorable manner, but in a horrible, tortuous, evil manner. The kind of manner these usurping warlocks are known for. Thomas.
Take out my... Sorry.
Oh, no, go on. Yeah, if you want to react, you go for it.
Yeah, I'll take out my flail and kind of stalk towards her, but I will look to Sir Thomas for guidance before doing anything.
Okay. Excellent.
I mean, I'm currently facing away from this, all right?
Yeah, your back is currently to William, but if you want, Sir Francis, you can move around to a place where Sir Thomas can see you. Yeah. So you will see Sir Francis looking at you for the should I murder the Tremere now kind of position. She has a flail out. She's looking to you for guidance. I'm just going to make a very quick check for Drogo.
Goodbye, everyone. This was fun.
Drogo begins to strain against you, Thomas. He says, they are hurting him. I told you it would come to this.
Do I hear that?
Oh my god. I have no idea what to do here.
Are you remaining in a position where you are physically blocking Drogo from interacting with the Tremere?
Let me turn and look at Abigail.
Okay.
And I would like to scry the soul on her.
Okay.
Basically to try and gauge, is she purposefully hurting him? Is she...
Sure, I'm not going to make you roll for this right now. When you scry the soul on her, you sense no malicious intent.
Okay.
There is nothing there, plus your own intuitions, which are quite impressive. There is nothing there that suggests she is trying to kill him. She seems extremely focused. She is working very quickly. She seems under a great deal of stress and very worried, as does Andres. But they are focused in the moment. They seem absorbed, almost zen-like, in what they're doing. And they are completely unaware at the moment of external stimuli, such as, for example, Drogo. In other words, should he choose to do something to them, there is nothing that they will not have an action to resist. They're currently counting at static difficulty 1. As I say, Drogo is starting to strain against you. So Francis is looking at you in like a, well, what are you going to do?
I will say they are trying to help him, truly. I'm sure of it.
Okay.
Trying to reassure Drogo. I think I will shoot Sir Francis a glance that is like, I'm not so sure.
Okay. For the moment, you're able to persuade Drogo with your calming words. Sir Francis, are you doing anything? Obviously, this is a longish procedure, so I'm giving you plenty of time. Sir William's screams, as they're now becoming, if anything, are becoming more intense as they continue to probe and prod. And you can now, even you with your not particularly keen senses, can smell burning flesh. Because whilst, yes, you're being very precise to remove the shards, you cannot help but burn a little of the flesh around his heart as well.
I think after a few more minutes have passed of more screams, I'll fix Sir Thomas with a glare and just say, "Are you sure?"
I feel like I need to make some sort of roll at this point because I really can't decide what to do here.
Yeah, if you want to make a roll to decide what Thomas does, but do it quick.
Okay, what kind of roll?
I don't know. You might want to make a single rouse roll die and just decide on a kind of like
even.
Inside us, please.
So, Abigail and Andres, you have definitely destroyed several of the shards. You are aware that due to the nature of these shards, the lines in which they have driven through his body are supernatural in nature. You're not sure how easy they will be to heal, even though they're tiny, tiny pinpricks. But it just kind of redoubles your efforts to stop them getting to anything too critical. And you continue to work. You're probably about a quarter of the way through your job. Maybe approaching half, actually, at this point. A considerable amount of time has passed. So, Thomas, what are you doing? So, Francis is looking at you. She wants an answer.
I think I'm going to kind of loosen my grip on Drogo.
Okay.
I'm not going to turn around to see what happens. But I think this is the prince's decision. It's his child, and he's the prince. And
okay. Are you giving Francis an answer?
I think
that asked you to tell her what the deal is here. So are you giving her an answer?
Well, I'm not giving her an answer. I'm allowing the prince to make the call, basically.
Okay, so Thomas stops holding Drogo back.
Right, that is my answer. I think.
Drogo watches, tensed, his dead muscles rippling, tensing, readying for action. But he has not yet sprung. He looks like he can't quite believe what he's seeing. But every time William makes a noise, he twitches. It will occur to you, Thomas, you think maybe Drogo is trying not to lose control to the beast. Sorry, Drogo is trying to not lose control to the beast. And he's struggling. He's really struggling. You get about 3/4 of the way through your procedure as I make this frenzy check for Drogo. You know Drogo well, Thomas. He is going to lose it. And you know how fast Drogo can be when he wants to. So my question to you is, do you do anything at all to stop Drogo acting? Ethically speaking, you could argue if the beast takes action, it is not the prince's decision. Though you could also argue that's a very, very thin line to walk on. And if Drogo does something, Drogo does something. But I want an answer, and I want it pretty quick.
I will not stop him.
Okay. So you step back. So Francis, do you do anything?
And moves towards them in an
Sorry.
aggressive motion. I too will attack. So I will wait for him to initiate, though.
Okay. So what happens is this. Abigail and Andres, you are fixated on your work, and you're vaguely aware that Drogo has been menacing throughout this whole thing, but you're also vaguely aware that he hasn't done anything to you. And Sir Thomas has been there. And you're so focused in what you're doing, you don't really hear the footstep that Thomas takes, because he's very light on his feet and very graceful as he steps aside. You are working on the final shards as you do hear Drogo give an inhuman snarl. And that is one of the last things that the two of you hear. Because when the frenzying elder vampire descends upon the two of you, as you are giving your all to save the life of his child, there is little you can do. And even if there was some resistance you could offer with your skills and your training and everything else, when Sir Francis comes in from the side with her flail, there really isn't much to be said. Thomas, do you watch what happens? No. You turn away. Nevertheless, the sounds are ones you will not soon forget. So, Francis, you're no stranger to violence. The hardest thing about this, of course, is that Drogo is not that discriminate in the way he attacks. However, he is focused enough on the Tremere that for a while, you have time to act. You suspect that Drogo may also turn on the rest of you when he's done. And he's not going to take very long. He starts just literally tearing the Tremere apart, roaring madly. It is awful. What do you do?
I will ensure we've dispatched both of the Tremere.
Oh, yeah.
And when we've done that, I mean, is he going for Sir William?
You think the moment he notices, you think he's going to go for everything? He is in full control. The beast has everything of him now.
Then I will pick Sir William up.
Yes.
And I will a firm hand on Sir Thomas's shoulder. And I will march him out with me. Mm-hmm. Say, we must go.
So
I will say, I think quite vacantly, but Thomas will say to Sir Francis, there is another in the chantry. You should bring her to us.
I will, once we have assessed Sir William's condition.
You have this hushed conversation
now
on the other side of the doors. And what happens is this. Drogo eventually will calm down from his rage, from his frenzy. But his anger against the Tremere does not abate. And so it is from that night forth. He declares that the Tremere have betrayed his blood, that they have tried to cut off his line from the double attack on his child. The details of there being Tremere sorcery involved only seem to cement it in his mind, that this is an insidious curse that never would have plagued Oxford until the Tremere were allowed inside. Nevertheless, the fact that the Tremere's skills were useful does get through to Drogo's mind. And he comes to the conclusion that while an older, more powerful Tremere is too dangerous to allow loose in his city, a young Tremere, one that can be controlled by him, might be useful. And so Cheng-Li is not destroyed.
Good for her.
With the rest of the Tremere. But that is not to say that she
come
has.
back to the raid and haunt the fuck out of Sir Thomas.
Yeah, that is not to say that she has a kind of good time of it. She becomes a prisoner of the city and lives on the prince's pleasure. And he's kind of expected to learn useful things from Abigail's library and perform tasks.
Good luck. Half of it's written in Latin.
And used very much like a tool. Of course, a tool which rarely performs as well as Drogo wishes, and he is often frustrated by her over the years. Whilst Sir William does not meet final death that night, thanks to the incredible actions that will never be recorded or remembered or known about, nevertheless, they are successful in stopping his final death. The stake itself was not perfectly enchanted, and they do enough with their legendary actions to save him. Having said that, Sir William is never the same again, and his vitality and his strength, his physical strength that was once a strong support of Oxfordshire, is no more. He often favours a cane from that night onwards. He does not fight in duels. And though he brings his counsel and his wisdom, he is diminished, and Oxfordshire is diminished. And that stain of that night not only stays with Sir William, but also Sir Thomas, and, though of course he would never admit it, Prince Drogo. And kind of remains there like an unspoken shadow for the rest of Drogo's reign. And that is where we will bring this session to a close.
That was great.
Sir Thomas, goddamn you!
I know, the heart of Oxfordshire threw you under the bus.
Abigail put so much trust in you.
So
So she is going to haunt you for the rest of eternity.
A big thank you to the players for being absolutely excellent, and I've really enjoyed the kind of character concepts that you came up with, and the way that you've played tonight and everything else has been excellent, and has added some good fun stuff for Oxfordshire's history. Thank you again to Mitch for adding an extra twist to Sir Thomas's story. Also, thank you to Dylan again. It is Dylan Appreciation Week, so do thank him for his hard work. I know that Carlos was in the wings on standby in case of emergency, so thank you to you. We will be back, of course, next week for the third of the Memoriam one-shots, the 1962 one-shot, with another set of fabulous players, and once more the return of Mitch for another reprisal of Sir Thomas. And coming up after that, of course, will be the Manchester miniseries. So one last happy birthday to Phil, one last love and hugs to Kirsty for the fabulous artwork, and hope to see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.